Hello and welcome to Med Simplified. The human excretory system is one of the most important organ systems of the body that performs the vital function of filtering your blood and removing excessive and unnecessary materials from the body. This helps to maintain an internal chemical homeostasis and prevent damage to the body. In this video, we are going to study about the human excretory system. In a narrow sense, the term refers to the urinary system. However, as excretion involves several other organs, it is important to remember that human excretory system is a wide term that also includes organs like skin, lungs, gut, nails, and hair. In this video, we will first learn about the urinary system and then we will discuss about the other organs that are involved in the process of excretion. So let's begin with the urinary system. The urinary system consists of a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder, and a urethra. The renal artery supplies the kidney with fresh blood, while the renal vein drains the blood from the kidneys. We'll go through each of these structures one by one and understand their role in the process of excretion. So the main hero of the urinary system is this pair of kidneys. The kidneys do the main job of filtering your blood and removing all the waste substances from it. The rest of the urinary system is basically just a storage unit and provides a mechanical force so that the urine can be expelled from the body. Now the kidneys are bean-shaped organs that are present on each side of our spine, almost at the level of our umbilicus. So each kidney measures approximately 11 to 13 centimeters in length, with the left kidney being slightly larger. The right kidney is placed at a lower level as compared to the left kidney. This asymmetry in size and placement is due to the position of liver on the right side of the body. Now each kidney has a convex and a concave border. The concave border of the kidney has this notch-like structure known as the hilum. This is the place where the blood vessels enter and leave the kidney.
So by now you should really know the basic structure of the urinary system and the gross structure of the kidney. Every day your blood passes through your kidneys about 400 times. The blood enters the kidney via the renal artery, the waste is filtered out and leaves the kidney via the ureter, and the clean blood then leaves the kidney via the renal vein. But what is actually happening inside the kidney for that to happen? Well, you've got to delve deep right down inside the kidney, right down to a microscopic level to find out. If you do that, what you would see are lots and lots of tiny tubules called nephrons. In fact, there are about 1 million of them in each kidney. If you could unravel them, they would stretch for about 60 kilometers. And these nephron tubules are supplied by a network of capillaries. So as the blood has entered the kidney and the renal artery, it splits out into smaller branches and smaller branches and smaller branches until it reaches the very outer part of the kidney, the cortex. And the arteries now are so small they're called arterioles, and in fact they're called the afferent arterioles, and these are the ones that supply the nephrons with the blood. So the blood enters down this afferent arteriole, and it's at really high pressure. We say it's got a very high hydrostatic pressure, and that arteriole then forms this ball of capillaries called the glomerulus, and that is at the start of the nephron. It is surrounded by a cup called the Bowman's capsule, which is the beginning of the nephron tubule. And because the blood is under such high pressure, lots of stuff starts getting forced out of the blood at this point and is collected in that Bowman's capsule. All of the small parts of the blood are included. So most of the fluid, all the products of digestion that are dissolved in the plasma, like glucose, amino acids, so water, fats, ions, and the urea get forced out. All that's really left in the blood at this point are the blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, and large proteins that are too big to fit through the capillary and out. That blood then continues off out of what we call the efferent arteriole and carries on its way, and we'll talk about where it goes next. Now this process is called ultrafiltration. Now the problem with this is there's lots and lots of good stuff that's just been filtered out of the blood, and if that fluid called the filtrate that's now come out of the blood carries on down that nephron and out, it will be excreted as waste. Now you do not want to get rid of the glucose, you do not want to get rid of the amino acids. There's lots of good stuff in there that we need to keep in the body. So the next part of the nephron, and pretty much the whole length of this wiggly tube, is dedicated to taking back the good bits back into the blood. So it's a bit of a clunky system really. What we're doing is getting rid of too much and then taking back the bits we want, so that all we're left with at the end of this tube are the waste products. So the fluid starts to move along the tube and it comes to the first wavy part of the nephron, which is called the proximal convoluted tubule. Now 85% of selective reabsorption, as it's called, happens here. All of the glucose gets reabsorbed here. A lot of the amino acids do, and a lot of the ions do here as well. Now that blood, that efferent arteriole that left the glomerulus is now carries on its journey and actually wiggles around the nephron so that the molecules can pass back into the blood where they're needed. Most of this happens by diffusion. The glomerular filtrate continues on its way then through the proximal convoluted tubule and then down into what we call the loop of Henle. Now the loop of Henle really is used to reabsorb water. This is where water is reabsorbed. You can see that it stretches down into the medulla part of the kidney where there is a high concentration of salts, which causes more water to move out by osmosis and enter the blood. So that's good because we don't want to excrete too much water. The fluid then continues on its way. There's not much left in it now, there's some water left in it, some salt, some urea, but pretty much all the good molecules that we want have been reabsorbed by this point. The distal convoluted tubule is used for fine tuning and slight adjustments to reabsorption, what we need. And finally, the glomerular filtrate, as it's called, passes down the collecting duct where other nephrons will join into one major collecting duct to eventually end up draining into the ureter, and that will be the waste. So by this point, at the bottom of the collecting duct, you really only want there to be urea, some water and some salts, and that is what makes up the urine.
So moving forward with the structure of the urinary system. The urine that is formed in the kidneys is passed down with the help of these structures, which are known as the ureters. Ureters are 25 to 30 centimeter long tubes that exit the kidney through the hilum and they run down into the urinary bladder. The walls of the ureters have smooth muscles in them that help to propel the urine forward from the kidneys into the urinary bladder. Now a kidney stone can move from the kidney and become lodged inside the ureter, which can block the flow of urine as well as cause a sharp cramp-like pain in the backside or the lower abdomen. This type of pain is known as a renal colic. Next, the urine moves from the ureters into the urinary bladder. The urinary bladder is a hollow organ that is present in the pelvis. The wall of the urinary bladder is a muscular wall and it is a distensible structure, meaning it can stretch. Now a typical human bladder will hold between 300 to 500 milliliters of urine before the urge to empty occurs, but it can hold considerably more if you don't find a place to pee immediately. The urine enters the bladder through two ureters and leaves the bladder through the urethra, which is another tube-like structure that we will discuss in just a bit. Now this part of the bladder is known as the body of the bladder, and the part below it is known as the neck of the bladder. The neck of the bladder is very important. It is basically this part of the bladder that makes sure that you don't leak urine all the time. The neck of the bladder contains a ring of smooth muscles that remains contracted and keeps the opening of the bladder closed. Whenever we want to pass urine, the nerve supplying the neck of the bladder relaxes the smooth muscles here, which allows the urine to pass from the bladder into the urethra. This ring of smooth muscles is known as the sphincter of the bladder. So our kidneys keep producing urine, which is carried by the ureters into the urinary bladder. The urinary bladder provides two important functions for the urinary system. First, it provides a hollow organ that is used to store urine. This is a very important function because you can imagine what running for the toilet every 10 minutes would look like. Second, the urinary bladder is a muscular organ. The contractions of the muscles in the wall of the bladder provide the force by which urine is expelled through the body. The urine exits the bladder through the urethra. Urethra is another hollow tube-like structure that helps to expel the urine out of the body. As the passage needs to traverse the length of the penis, it is significantly longer in males than females. It is approximately 4 cm in length for females, whereas it is about 20 cm in length in the male body. This is the reason why females have urinary tract infections more frequent than men. Besides excretion, the kidney has many other important roles, like maintaining a proper volume of fluids in the body, maintaining a proper balance between the levels of different types of ions in our body, maintaining a proper pH of the body, regulation of the blood pressure, and formation of important vitamins like vitamin D. So this was about the role of urinary system in the process of excretion. Now let's talk about the rest of the organs of the body that are included in the human excretory system.
The skin is the largest organ of the body. It is an excretory organ too. The skin has many sweat glands, which are highly coiled glands present under the deep layers of skin. They secrete sweat, which comes out through small openings in skin called sweat pores. The body gets rid of some urea, excessive salts and water through sweat.
Gaseous exchange refers to the process of oxygen and carbon dioxide moving between the lungs and blood. Air passes into the lungs via bronchi, bronchioles, and then into alveoli. This is where gaseous exchange takes place. Alveoli are individual hollow cavities contained within alveolar sacs or ducts. There are approximately 3 million alveoli within an average adult lung. They have very thin walls, which permit the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide gases. A network of small blood vessels called capillaries, into which the inspired gases pass, surrounds alveoli. Diffusion occurs when molecules move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration.